Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Growth Monday. So excited about another installment of Growth Monday and glad you're here to join us. I'm very excited about today's topic. We're talking about the Great Reshuffle. We've heard about that. The Great Reshuffle, the Great Resignation. And what does that mean for 2022? So we're going to talk about some of the things that's transpired last year and, of course, the first month of 2020. I cannot believe the first month's already gone, month and a half. And then what we can expect throughout 2022. I've got a great guest on today, Priyanki Amroliwala. Amroliwala. It's kind of a tongue twister for me, sorry. But so happy to have you back on the show, Priyanki.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I really appreciate your insight on recruitment and talent acquisition, and I know that you've been busy with the recruitment of dentists and all the other professionals that they work with, and so you've got a good purview as to what's going on right there on a ground level in recruitment, but also at a macro level because I know you do quite a bit of research and speaking engagements, things of that nature. So glad to have you on the show to talk about this important subject about the Great Reshuffle and the Great Resignation. Let's talk about the. Let me ask you this: which term do you like better, reshuffle or resignation? Which one? Great Reshuffle or Great Resignation? Which one is your jam?
I actually here's how they kind of go hand in hand. I like they technically do go hand in hand. I would say the difference is for reshuffle, it's kind of obvious. Like everyone is now reshuffling. What that means is a lot of organizations are reshuffling their staff to accommodate everything that's going on. And then resignation is kind of obvious. A lot of people are quitting their jobs and they're doing it with like a big shebang and a big show just to kind of go out there and move on into the world. And they're doing it with such class these days. It's crazy, but yes.
So, do you think that okay? So, what I'm getting from what you're telling me is the Great Reshuffle could means that it means that you don't necessarily lose the employee. Maybe you just move them in a different part of your organization, possibly. Maybe they're in a
Absolutely.
position. Yeah. So, whereas the Great Resignation, obviously, they're leaving your organization.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
in how is your particular organization addressed, or how have you seen it addressed in the industry? Are we looking to try and gather or snap up some of those folks who resigned from other companies? Are we trying to focus more on reshuffling within our own firm? What have you seen has been more of the emphasis put by either you can use your company as an example or other companies?
So, the reshuffle is kind of, like I said, they kind of go hand in hand because if you're getting a lot of resignations, the reshuffling is going to happen because you're going to have to kind of work and make do with the talent that you have. So, one thing that is working well with this reshuffle is, a lot of companies, they probably never really thought about doing this before or, have always thought about it, but never really worked towards it. But now they don't have a choice. They're kind of scrambling. Um, but the reshuffle does work in that um, the employers are now developing their talent. They're, entrusting in their talent to move into different departments, into kind of dabbling their hands into multiple different departments, into multiple different things versus just being in that one role. They're also, promoting their employees into other roles just because, like I said, it's hard to find talent from externally. A lot of their internal talent is leaking and going away. So they're doing a lot of reshuffling of employees. That's what that is.
Makes sense. And then, I know we were going to talk more on the talent acquisition side, but we know that, retention also affects talent acquisition, right? Because if for some
Yeah.
reason you have a situation where it's like a leaky faucet, or it's like you could, or let's say it's a leaking tire. I could fill that tire up, but then in a few hours I'm going to have to fill it up again if it's got a leak. And
Yeah.
sometimes we've got these leaks that are in our companies where folks are kind of leaving out the back door. We're bringing them in the front door, but as soon as we bring them in, they're leaving out the back door. So if an organization is kind of facing that kind of issue, from a talent acquisition side, first of all, how does that affect talent acquisition? And what do you think is one of the best fixes, or just at least to start the conversation of fixing that issue?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. What you said is spot on. Like recruitment and retention, they do go hand in hand. So, um, I guess one thing to know, obviously, for everyone that's listening, is retention is more important. I feel like retention should always go before recruitment. So if you always hear me, I always say retention and recruitment because retention is way more important than it is to recruit. If you retain your talent, you're not going to find the need to recruit. But yeah, I mean, as you know, Rollis, like we've already talked about this, hiring is crazy. It always has been crazy. I think sometimes people forget it's not the pandemic that made things crazy. Like hiring was definitely crazy pre-pandemic. The pandemic definitely changed things up. We talked about that during our last episode. And then now we're all kind of in this era where in 2021 we heard about these terms. Like I had never ever heard of the great reshuffle before. I never ever heard of the great resignation before. These were terms that were invented in 2021. That's 2021 jargon. And employers are now just kind of working with their staff, trying to figure out what they can do to retain their staff. Like retention has now been a key priority in organizations. I mean, the fact of the matter is all organizations should have prioritized this a long time ago. And not that it wasn't a priority, but it's now their number one focus, which is great. Like, I love it personally because I'm like, yeah, this is what I've been preaching for years. So awesome. Welcome. So I love it. But yeah, like a lot of companies now are working with their CHROs and their head of talent acquisition and stuff to like come up with different things that they can do to obviously retain their staff. And then, if they're not able to do that, if they're not able to, save their talent, then they go into talent acquisition and then come up with lots of different recruitment incentives and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you because the organizations that we work with as our clients, of course, it was a priority before, but more
yeah.
so than ever now. And also, they're finding more budget than they used to. Used to be, oh, we don't
Oh
have the
yeah.
budget for that. Oh, we don't have the budget for that. We don't have the budget for that. Now it's like, can we spend more? Can we do more? Because we need more results. So I've actually seen that this year. That's just more than any other time period that I've seen in my recent career in terms of the focus from the C-suite all the way down. They're like, we got to fix this problem. I've also noticed you touched on a point about CHRO. I've seen
Mhm.
more of that this past year than I've had before because in a lot of organizations you may have a VP of HR. Possibly you have some recruiters that report directly to the VP of HR, but
Yeah.
there weren't as many directors of talent acquisition, VPs of talent acquisition, and then reporting up to a CHRO who's sitting at the C-suite table. I don't know. Just from my perspective, I've seen more of that now in even smaller companies than I ever have. Have you seen that as well?
Absolutely. And Rallis, I'm glad that you brought that up. So in 2021, basically, I read an article on LinkedIn and it talked about the top 20 most in demand jobs in 2021. Needless to say, talent acquisition specialists. So obviously, recruitment, anyone that's recruitment, that was like they're hot, hot, hot. They're in high demand in 2021. And obviously, that continues into 2022 as well. So some predictions for 2022. And then another one, like a really hot job, was CHRO. And like you're right, like the CHRO definitely sits on the C-suite. It's a needed position, and I'm glad that these companies are realizing, hey, we truly need a head of HR. We need someone that can help us, when it comes to obviously the recruitment piece, the retention piece, employee benefits, everything related to your whole and soul. Like when you think about a company, obviously it's your employees that are making this company. So nowadays I realize more so than ever, even with the small companies, they never really had a budget to have a CHRO or to have their own individual talent acquisition person. They're all adding it in. And like you talked about, Rollis, that's correct. Like same thing. I had never ever heard of companies so much trying to add more into the recruitment budget. It was always, hey, it's not in the budget for this year. Hey, I can't do this for retention. It's too much money. Now it's, yep. let's do it. Let's do it. And then how can we add more? I consistently hear this within my organization, within other organizations as well. I've done a lot of research, and you're right, I do a lot of speaking engagements or whatnot, and I continuously hear it. People are now breaking their banks, throwing in money as much as possible. They're happy to sacrifice in other departments, but they're doing anything that they possibly can to retain their staff, which is great.
Well, and one of the things I agree. One of the things I've seen recently too is I'm noticing it, and I haven't seen how this is going to play out. You've got more workers, more folks who are in the marketplace that have figured out that they can work remotely for whatever reason. They figured out, and they figured that they like it, and they want to keep doing it, right? But the employers are like, hey, wait a second, this thing is winding down. We got to get you guys back in the office. We got all this office space over here. We spent millions and millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars on this office space. So we need to have folks in the office. We can't have you working from home. I've heard that. And then I also want to break down from that. You have two classes of employees who can work from home and the ones that can't because they, maybe it's patient care or whatever the case is, and they have to physically be with the patient. And so there's it's almost like there's two cultures there.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, first of all, on how are you dealing with this dynamic of you've got a set of potential employees, candidates, that want this remote work, and you're having to either compete with that because perhaps you don't offer it, or maybe you do offer it for some positions but can't offer it for others. How are you working with that whole dynamic right now?
Yeah, I mean, your question's spot on as usual, Rollis. I would say same thing. We do have positions within our organization that can be remote, and then we have other positions that cannot. I mean, we're in a dental field, so obviously dentists need to be in person, but excuse my coughing. I don't get pushback from them. I get pushback from a lot of corporate staff. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I need to get some water.
No, water break time. Let's do a water break. I'm gonna do a water break too, folks. If you're watching,
I
make sure
apologize.
you're hydrated.
Something got caught. So what I'm saying is, basically what I'm coming across is a lot of staff or a lot of corporate employees. They don't even want to do hybrid work. They just want to be fully remote. Um, so what we're up against is employers that are like hiring in California, even though we're a Boston-based organization, that are willing to hire Boston-based employees and just keep them remote. So the weird thing about the pandemic, obviously it wasn't thought through, was a lot of these companies, they've opened up their job search nationally. So not only are they just caring about like local talent, they're able to hire national talent because it's a work from home position. So we are getting a lot of pushback, but for us, Rollis, it's kind of just based on which position it is. And, we're now just allowing a lot of hybrid schedules, and we're giving our employees kind of like, okay, well, we understand we're asking you to come to the office, but because you're coming to the office, we're allowing you to kind of call the shots on the hours you want to work. So you want to work 10 to 6, fine, work 10 to 6. If you want to work 8 to 5, that's fine. Like, as long as you kind of get the job done and put in the hours, we're allowing a lot of flexibility. So, there are some things we just can't work around, but we're absolutely trying our best to ensure that we can back the employees up and still give them some type of leeway on their schedules and flexibility.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, now some employers are saying, okay, this is work from home right now, but whenever we get on the other side of COVID here, we're going to bring everybody back in. So, have you seen more leadership saying, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and embrace this thing and not say it's just to the end of COVID. We're going to go ahead and just do it. We're going to go all in and just allow them to keep working remotely. Is that something
Yeah,
that's even been in discussion?
Yeah, Rollis, you know what? I've been talking to a lot of companies, whether they like it or not, their employees are going to be remote. Sorry. It's the new thing. And the thing is, that's also adding to this great reshuffle and great resignation. A lot of people that feel like they were pressured to go back in or work these hybrid schedules, they're like, you know what? Why do I need to come in? I'm just going to find another job and fully work remote. So, I mean, whether any employer wants it or not, whether they like it or not, they're going to have to deal with this. This is the new norm. And the new norm is yes, you're going to have to work with your employees and have remote workers. And, I agree. It's not fun. Like these companies, you're right, they spend millions of dollars on these offices and they have these amazing, huge infrastructures. And it's not like they don't get used, but it's now just kind of thought of differently. Like, hey, this is like our workspace. Come in for a couple hours when we have a meeting, or we're doing a little hangout thing. So come then, or come like here for this. But you don't have to come every day, all day, and report
Right.
in Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day. That's not productive. So.
So okay, so let's talk about your what are your, as you're looking at and doing your research, what are you seeing are the coming trends that are coming up around the corner, the predictions you have for the rest of 2022. I'd like to hear what some of those are, and I've got one I want to add to it, but I want to hear what yours are first.
So predictions for 2022 were definitely leaking from 2021. Great reshuffle, great resignation. That's still happening now, especially in January, because January is like one of the biggest hiring months ever. So new year, new job. Oh yeah, baby. That was like gung ho. There were a lot of open positions. There were a lot of people leaving, and then there were also equally amount a lot of hires. So kind of just balances out. But oh yeah, definitely madness. And then when it comes into the recruitment world, still like same thing. Companies are doing big, big sign on bonuses like sign on, sign on, sign on, sign on, sign on. Like that's gonna be the continuing trend. This is like the new benefit. Like, oh, is there a sign on bonus? Like it's now almost a
Mm,
requirement. Yeah. Everyone asks, and it's not just, it's not one specific position. People ask all across the board at all levels, in all departments, in all positions. So I consistently get asked that across the board. Sign on. And now, Rollis, what I'm actually really proud of my organization. We're working on like retention bonuses. So we're working on,
mm,
hey, like, yeah, we've got this cool sign on bonus. Great, we'll give you that. But now let's talk about retention. So we're
yeah.
trying in a lot of different ways to structure our retention bonuses. And the thing is, Raul, is like it's funny. You don't even have to call it a retention bonus because I feel like it gets too technical. We just call it a bonus, or we do student loan repayment programs, which essentially ties into retention, or we do a sign-on bonus, but we're obviously not giving the sign-on bonus up front, but we're tying it in all throughout the year, so that way at least we have the employees like spread out and at least there for that one full year,
Right.
not maybe more. So we're just doing a lot of different things to try to ensure that it's retention, that we are going to retain our staff.
Love that. No, I love that. That's good. I love it. So, I've seen those things being used, not as much. In fact, we were tracking from about March 2011, so 2020 rather, until about August of 2021. So we ran a research project over that time, and
Awesome.
roughly over 90% of the facilities that were offering incentives were putting most, if not all, their money in the sign-on bonus. Very few, only about 5% as far as nurse recruitment, we're offering retention bonuses and education. So any
Yeah.
companies that are doing that, I think now you can start to kind of differentiate yourself. Because I was
Yeah.
like, to your point, I was seeing sign-on bonuses for entry level positions. There were sometimes doing sign-on bonuses because they couldn't get enough people to sign up. In fact, I see sign-on bonuses even for some of the jobs you wouldn't expect. They're just maybe like a warehouse worker or something like that. They're getting sign-on
Oh yeah.
bonuses. So
Yeah.
you got to compete with that somehow, right? So I've seen more companies do sign-on bonuses where it's not as much of a differentiator anymore. To your point, if you're not offering one because people are asking for it so much, it may look like your offering is not as strong. So I have seen some of that for some of those hard to fill positions. So I agree that the retention bonus though and the education are I think are going to be big differentiators. So I would encourage companies who
Yeah.
aren't doing that to do that.
Yeah, like anyone that's listening today, like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like sign-on bonus, it's now like a requirement, like health insurance. So it's now the new norm, but now you still have to figure out ways to like attract more talent and retain talent. And another way to do that is obviously by adding these like student loan repayment programs and paying it out at the end of each year. And then maybe like, saying by year 3, you'll get X amount of dollars. So now you're trying to retain staff for 3 years. That's a big deal. That's a long time. If you can
Yeah.
hire someone and keep them productive and happy for 3 years, count your blessings, my friends. Count your blessings.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And to give some context, those who are just signing in, we're talking about the Great Reshuffle as well as the Great Resignation and how it's kind of playing into our recruitment strategy. And I know with myself and I know Priyanki, we both live in the space of those harder to fill positions. She's working on dentists, and I would imagine others like dental assistants, things like that, and then also some of the techs that assist. I know with us, we're working with a lot of nurse positions, therapists. We're actually even doing some C-suite positions as well, director
yeah,
positions, all on the healthcare side. But a lot of these things, if you're just now watching, can play into really any industry. One of the things I was going to ask you, and I'm starting to see this more and more, we do, as you know, Priyanki, a lot of advertising of positions using video. And we're noticing that people's video habits have changed because we used to do the traditional widescreen videos, and then we eventually started doing the square ones, and they had the captions at the bottom and the title bars at the top. But people actually are more into the portrait style now because I think mainly because of TikTok.
yeah,
Right now, it got such momentum that we're actually, as a company, we're already starting to shift over to portrait style video. So here's how I'm just prefacing my question. How are you noticing your candidates in terms of what they respond to, whether it's text, whether it's I don't know if you're using video or but based on
yeah.
what do you find the most interaction from or the most applicants from at this time?
Candidates, I mean, it depends on the age group of the candidate, but it doesn't really matter. Candidates love technology. And the quickest way for me to get a candidate excited and responding is via text. It is my number one like tool because I'm really dealing with candidates that are probably at work. Obviously, I think this goes for everyone in every industry. If you want to hire good talent, you don't want to hire the person that already was fired from a different place, right? You want to hire the person that is experienced and it's working and they're gainfully employed, and those are the people that you actually want. So all my talent, they're all at work, so obviously they can't talk, but I love how they're like boom, 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 boom. In between patients, in between meetings, in between calls, they're texting. So that's a great way to engage. And Raul is, you know what? When you talk about videos, we actually finally just started implementing that. But what we're doing for videos is we're doing job postings via video. I don't necessarily know if that's gotten me a lot of responses, but what the way that the videos have been helping is now we go to a lot of events, and I love that we now have a screen where we have our doctors showing why they joined our organization with little captioning at the bottom so people can just kind of walk by and look at it. So that's actually a really nice way for us to attract people to our booth at like conferences and career fairs and stuff like that. That's worked well. And then also, we're adding videos like onto our job postings. So we just put a link in, and then like we post a job, let's just say on Indeed. And hey, I'm not sure if they're looking at it, but hey, if you're an experienced dentist and you want to see why other dentists join our practice, or what it's like to work at one of our practices, just quickly like look at this video, and that's been helpful. Like just super educational. So I feel like it's been really good because now we're able to educate candidates before they even talk to the recruiter. So by the time they talk to the recruiter, if they've already looked at our video, they already know like 90% of what we were going to talk about anyway. So it's actually better.
That's awesome. That's good. Hey, kudos for doing that. Let me give you a little bit of a kudos for doing a video program. I'm impressed. That's awesome. Well, this year we're probably gonna. I think our projections are we're gonna produce somewhere between 850 to 1,000 videos in 2022, and we're already up to about 3.5 million views. We're live across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Google, all those major platforms, and we've just found that people's appetite for video is changing. They want short. They want the portrait style more. In fact, I
Yes.
just found out for TikTok, the postings the videos that have the full screen get 30% more views than the ones that are square. So those little intricacies we learn after not only posting the videos, but pushing the videos out to where the candidates can see them and then analyzing the data. And so it used to be that the captions were like, that was like huge. That was like kind of like the sign on bonus. Like, wow, these guys have captions. Ooh, these guys have title bars. Ooh, let me watch this
Yes.
video. But now everybody has that, so it's not a differentiator anymore. So now it's like, okay, and they may or may not watch it. So we had to figure out other stuff to get their attention. And one of the things we found too, also, Priyanki, I'll just add to those who are watching, if you're interested in doing a video type strategy, is have lots of them. So we create
Yeah.
literally dozens of videos per month, actually a dozen per client in some cases. So they always have fresh new content because who wants to watch the same movie trailer twice?
No,
Nobody.
nobody. Yeah.
So we always have new, fresh content. But with that, I'm thinking I don't know if you saw this. TikTok has 1 billion active users per month that use the program for a minimum, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say minimum, an average of 52 minutes per day, which is crazy.
That's a lot.
Uh, yeah, if you want to compare it to LinkedIn, LinkedIn's like 20 minutes a month is their average user. TikTok is an
Yeah.
hour a day almost. Another thing that's really cool about TikTok, which I think is interesting, is that over half the people on the platform have uploaded content at one time or another. Whereas on LinkedIn, you have very few who upload content in comparison
Yeah.
to the overall population. So I'm seeing some trends here. I haven't done much on Snapchat. I don't know if you're much of a Snapchat person. I have a profile. I've
I'm
never
on
actually used
Snap.
it. But tell
I'm
me
on
about it.
Snap. Yeah,
Tell me
but
about it. Tell me about Snap.
Snap is good, but I feel like it's almost too people are probably gonna make fun of me. I feel like it's very teenagery. I feel like there's a lot of teenagers on and stuff like that. I don't know if it's a good professional platform, but God knows someone can prove me wrong and maybe eventually it can be, but you know,
Well, they
not
don't
there
stay
yet.
teenagers forever, right? They're going to be in the workforce soon, right? So those who are teenagers, in fact, there's a whole generation
That's
that kind
true.
of grew up on Snapchat, and they're just now starting to enter into the workforce, and so that's going to be dominant. One of the things I've noticed with TikTok, people thought that it was kind of for young people, to give you an example. And that's what I thought. I thought it was just mostly young folks on TikTok. But when you look at the
Yeah.
numbers, it's all across the board. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
across the board. I think right now only about 25% of the platform is south of 20. Everyone else is adults and up. And it's gotten so big that I mean, one of the fastest growing demographics for TikTok right now is those between 30 and 45. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how things are shifting. So to your point about Snapchat, it may have been that way or it may currently be that way, but pretty soon that's probably going to be another hot one. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but that's probably another hot area to hit recruits.
Absolutely, you're right. You're absolutely right. But I'm
So we'll
picking and
see.
choosing my social media battles. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Well, it's for me, it's not about so much using the platform. It's more about creating content that will attract
Of course.
my recruits,
Yeah,
right? The applicants, right? And so I want to go where
absolutely.
they are. So they may not be on Indeed. They may be looking at the next video
Oh
on
yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, the best way to like we all want passive talent. Like it's not the active talent. Those are the people that are already, maybe let go of or had left a previous job for like various reasons. We love the experienced talent that's probably more passive. Those are our best hires for sure.
Okay, now I want to touch on this point about experience because that has been as long as I've been in the recruiting business, it's been all about okay, we want to try and clients. This is what the clients say they want. I say clients, I mean whether it's a hiring manager or if it's a company, they're saying
Yeah.
we want these talents or rather this experience. We want them to have this experience. We love them
Yeah.
if they're from these particular companies, and they tend to favor those who are, like you said, gainfully employed, working
Oh
somewhere
yeah.
else. But because of the shortage of talent right now, do you see some of that mentality shifting to, well, you know what? Maybe if they aren't working, that's something we should still look at because we might be able to work with them in this department here. Have you seen that shift, or is that pretty much the same?
Nope, I've definitely seen the shift. I mean, I definitely still deal with the hiring managers and the hiring parties that are like, "Oh yeah, we want experience," but nowadays they're probably more flexible than they ever have been. Especially when someone like myself will be like, "Listen, I'm in this market. I know it well. It is literally tugs of wars, and it's called the war on talent. That's kind of what we talked about for 2021. So." I've noticed that employers are definitely more flexible about whom they want to hire. They understand that they're not going to get this person with oodles of experience. So they're willing to train and kind of work with the talent that they have. So, again, these are all things that companies probably should have done 5 years ago. But the fact that they're finally doing it now, all good stuff. Yes.
Okay, now for some reason I did not see comments for a long time, and thank you for that, Priyanki. I didn't see comments for a while, guys. I wasn't ignoring you, but I just didn't see anything come up on my iPad. So I just saw several comments that have come in. So Leon, Leon says you must first fix the leak. I agree. I agree, Leon. He says as it pertains to remote work, employers must ask themselves, why do they need to go back in if performance is the same or better? Ah, that's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good question. He also says communication depends on level of position as well. Frontline will prefer text more than anything. Yes, I think both of us
Absolutely.
agree on that, right, Priyanki?
Yep, for sure.
And then Joshua says Priyanki, video is a great way for branding and to circumvent the interviewing process. Ah, interesting. So have you used okay, I understand you talking about you sent these videos to introduce people to your job and your company, but have
Yep.
you used video very much within the interviewing process, and if so, to what degree?
So I've heard a lot about let's talk about candidate side. On the candidate side, nowadays there's video resumes. Like I've heard a lot about how candidates basically just have, yes, they have a old fashioned paper resume, but they also have like a video link or something else that literally is basically the candidate talking to the recruiter or the hiring party about who they are, which I think is awesome. Like I love it. I think it shows that the candidate truly is very professional, shows how they connect, and we're definitely in healthcare where these candidates are dealing directly with patients. So the way that they connect and the way that they communicate is very important. So I love that. And then when it comes to the other side, like the actual hiring side or hiring side on our end, I mean, kind of like what I was talking about. Yes, our introductory videos and kind of, our dentist making these videos about who we are and why they join and stuff. That's all been beneficial and very helpful. But I really haven't taken it more on our end for that. So, Rollis, if you have suggestions, I'm definitely open to those for sure.
Okay, now you said something interesting. You went right off into the candidate side, which I didn't even think much about. We did the candidate side videos. We tried that about 5 years ago, and what we ran into at the time, which I don't think we're going to have that same experience now, is they felt uncomfortable going on video. They felt sometimes uncomfortable with even the idea of recording it and then sending it because the file is so big, right? When you record a nice looking video, that's a huge file. So how do you send it? So we ran into some of those kind of logistical issues and we kind of dropped it. But just the fact by you mentioning it, I want to thank you for that because you actually have my wheels turning on how we could perhaps get back into candidate videos because I do think it's very important. We have had a
Yeah.
few folks, that have done it, but just not on the whole, right? Um,
Yeah.
do you find that your hiring managers are open to actually watching them? Because let's say if you've got, I don't know, 5 or 10 candidates there that you think are good over several different jobs, are those hiring managers? Do you think they're willing to sit there and watch those videos? What kind of
Oh yeah.
appetite have you seen from them?
I know my hiring managers, they will definitely, if it's as simple as just clicking on a link, as long as it's a link that they can click on or something easy that they can download, and I say watch this video, they're gonna watch it and it's gonna make a world of a difference. Yeah.
I agree. You know what? I will tell. Okay, so there was so we had some hiring events earlier this year and late last year for a client, and I can tell. I'll first tell you, I wasn't real hot on the idea of doing a hiring event, but we did it, and let me tell you, we've gotten some great results out of them. But here's what has happened on a couple occasions: the hiring manager wasn't available when they came on to the hiring event. So instead of them just having a blank trip of basically being on the, well, it's not really a trip, but they take their time out. They prepared for this, and the hiring
Yeah.
manager's not available. I say, you know what? Since you're here, I want to record a video of you, and I'll ask them a few questions. I'll prompt them. I recorded it, sent that to the hiring manager. I only did it twice, and they got hired both times.
Awesome.
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
So
I
you're right on that.
Yeah, and by the way, Rollins, so a few points. Number one is you're absolutely right. If you probably proposed this idea 5 years ago, people were not used to going on Zoom videos and all these things. But guess what? Now the pandemic has twisted and turned things around, and people are very much trained to be on video, to take videos. We're now in the TikTok generation that we just talked about. Everyone's taking videos. Everyone feels a lot more comfortable with doing videos. So have at it. I think it's great. And it's going to, like I said, I feel like now with hiring managers, they might not even open up their resumes, but they'll be like, all right, let me just quickly watch this 30-second video on this candidate. Hey, if it's a dentist or if it's a nurse, hey, I'm an ICU nurse. I've got 5 years of experience. I live in the Boston area. I practice at MGH, blah, 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 blah. Boom. So much easier
Yeah.
than to review a resume, right? So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, there was a position we had internally a few months ago, and when I did the position, I said, you know what, I'm going to try this different, Bianchi. I'm going to go ahead and just do this one where I'm going to put my posting as a video, and I'm going to have them respond by video. So I put this posting out on LinkedIn, and then I also had myself on the job posting itself, just explaining more about the job. And then when they
yeah,
applied, as soon as they applied, I sent them a video thanking them for applying and says, look, I want you to record a video and send it to me as to why you feel like you're a good fit for this position. And we had, I think, five people out of 60 people applied. Five of them did a video, and we hired two of them. They're on our staff right now.
that's awesome. Because
It
guess
was
what?
awesome.
Yeah, they went that extra mile and they did it. And they sold themselves over to you versus you just reviewing those resumes.
Yeah, it worked out great because we were just planning on hiring one person, but two of them were so good. We said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and hire both of them. And so glad we did. A great teammates. So that was my
Awesome.
first time actually doing a complete position by video because whenever
Yeah.
they would apply, I would send them a video, and then they'd send me a video, and then I'd send them another video saying, okay, thank you, and then you could fill this out and set up an appointment. We'll talk. And we ended up hiring one of them. So, okay, so I'm just so glad we had this today because you've already given me an idea I'm gonna be running with. Now I also
Awesome.
want, yeah, this is great. And guys, in the comments, thank you for your participation as well. I love these comments coming from Leon and Joshua. Appreciate you. So you just made me think of another point about how things are different 5 years later. 5 years ago, there was no TikTok. So people weren't used to, yes, some people did it on Instagram, they uploaded their own video. Some people did it on Facebook. Some people did it on LinkedIn. But the numbers show that by far a minority of people on those platforms actually submit content. So most people were not used to uploading a video online. So I
Yeah,
want to give TikTok a little bit of thank you because TikTok is training hundreds of millions of people how to upload video through their phone
absolutely.
to a platform.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a bunch of ready trained folks, Priyanki, that's going to be available and ready to. They're not going to be mortified to upload a video because they've already done it so many times on TikTok.
Yeah.
Can you do it on Snapchat? Do you upload videos on Snapchat? Do people do that?
So you do, but Snapchat erases everything. So remember, Snapchat, the thing is, you put it on. Yeah, Snapchat is all video essentially,
Okay.
but or you can do video, or you can do pictures too. But everything gets erased in like a couple of days in a day. So in 24 hours, actually.
But that's okay because
Yeah.
here's the thing. I just want people to be trained and feel comfortable on how to record and upload a video. So if it goes
Yeah.
away in a day, I don't care about that part. What I care about is did they actually do it? Because if we have more
Yeah.
people who do that, that means there's going to be that many more people who feel comfortable submitting a video resume. Because I can tell you,
Oh, absolutely. I'm
most people
telling you,
today are not
Rollis,
comfortable with that.
it's a different generation. Everyone's on Zoom, everyone's doing videos, everyone is now camera ready. Whether they liked it or not, the pandemic has changed things left and right.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Okay, so here's one thing. Here's my tip I will share with you and the rest of the folks when if you're doing video. One of the mistakes I see is I shouldn't say it's a mistake, but just maybe they overlook it. Is that we still think a search-based mentality. So we think of the internet as something where you search for something and then you get some results and that's a great way to advertise because if I search, let's say for dentist jobs in Massachusetts, you want your company to come up. That's the way we always thought about the internet. But that's like 1.0. We're in the 2.0 right now. It doesn't the internet is not fueled by search anymore. It's fueled by behavior. So like to give an example, my experience on Amazon or my experience here on LinkedIn or on YouTube or Google is going to be much different from your experience based on what I watched, based on what I liked and interacted with, based on what I commented on. So through
Yeah.
time, I'm building this profile with that website, right? With that company. And after a while, this company can predict when I'm going to go online. They can predict what I'm going to look at, what I'm going to like, what I'm going to comment on. They have all these algorithms. So it's audience based, it's not search based. So it doesn't matter to them if I hit dentist jobs in Massachusetts. I could be wanting to watch the next Beyonce video, or I might be wanting to watch maybe a medical reference thing, or I might want to watch an NFL football game or something like that. And it knows that, look, this person, we don't know if it's Rawless or Priyanki, but this person has the profile of a dentist in Massachusetts. So we're going to throw them up some ads because they seem to like these kind of ads. So it's not based off what I searched, it's based on me as an audience. So this is
Yeah.
my tip to people when they're building out these campaigns is make sure that those videos are being targeted and sent out to those people that are part of that audience instead of just
Right.
creating the video and then hopefully people will watch it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's my
Yeah.
one key thing for 2022. And eventually, I don't know how this is going to work, but Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of other these big wigs are already investing in what they call the Meta. It's like the next version of the internet. I know they changed the Facebook company to the name Meta, but Meta's a thing, man. That's like the next level of what the internet's going to be because the current internet we have was created like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So this new one is going to be totally different. So we've already moved from search based. Now we're in audience based. We're going after these
Yeah.
candidates. We're trying to say, okay, look, I want to go after dentists. I want to go after, in my case, I want to go after registered nurses. So I want to create these online profiles and audiences that are based around that, and then I will track them to my content based on whatever clients I'm working with. So I think the
Right.
next level is going to be like, for instance, like with your Alexa. Um, Alexa, and what's the other one? Siri, and you say, "Look,
Right.
I want X," and it's going to start suggesting stuff to you based on your behavior. I think that's probably the next thing. I don't know. I'm getting a little off in the woods here, but that's where I think that recruiting is going to. It's audience based, not search based.
Absolutely. And like it's not just anymore about job postings. People are like, "Oh, well, I posted the job." It's no longer about that. Like it's all about like search engine optimization for recruitment as well,
Right.
like the SEO piece. Like so it's no longer about hey, being atop of Indeed job search. No, that's like by the time they get on Indeed, that's different. We're
Right.
talking about be going on Google and researching dentist jobs and like being number one for dentist job on Google, or just typing in dentist and being number one for that search like result there. So that's really how we're attracting more of the passive talent, you know? And then same thing, like kind of being followed around. Like a lot of the dental companies follow me around. I'm watching YouTube, and the next thing you know, I get an advertisement through like Aspen Dental about like becoming a patient of theirs. But that's
Yeah.
because they hear dental all the time. So they follow me around, and I love it though. I'm like, oh, great. I guess it's working for them, you know?
Yeah,
So, same thing. Like, we need to basically figure out ways to really follow these people around and kind of put that little bug in their ear. Like, I'm listening and I'm going to
exactly.
attack you on YouTube or on
And the,
Facebook or on anything that you're using.
exactly, and then that's where the whole audience base comes into play. Is right. You've
Exactly.
identified this set of people who seem to be interested in that, and once they go to your website, we use this. We use these pixel codes that once they land on our website, let's say they came from LinkedIn, the next time they go to another site, I can still track. I can still hit them with ads on a different site that they're
Yeah.
using, even though we eventually got them on LinkedIn. Okay, guess what? There's more comments that came in. Leon says it's the old phrase "beggars can't be choosers." There are some gems in active talent. He's right. Right.
Oh,
So we still
absolutely.
yeah, we still do our Indeed thing, right? So we're still going to have our jobs there. We're going to still have
We
our
do.
jobs on
We do
LinkedIn.
all that stuff. Yeah, we don't stop. We don't stop. That's the thing, Rallis. I got asked this question just earlier today. Someone's like, "Well, how do you find talent?" Well, I'm like, "Well, I do a little bit of everything, a little bit of everything." So the search
Yeah.
engine optimization, the Indeed job postings, the LinkedIn recruiter seat. We do Zip Recruiter. We use all the dental societies. Like, I'm part of all the career fairs and then trade shows and conferences, the virtual stuff, the in person stuff, like you name it, we dabble upon it. Like, you have to do recruitment and marketing kind of come hand in hand. Like, people always say, well, what's your recipe for success? Is it that billboard ad? Well, it's the billboard ad plus a million other things that we're doing. So it's the billboard ad plus the radio advertisement plus the TV commercial plus the postcards plus like
Right.
everything. Yeah, it's not just one thing. I wish there was just one recipe for success, and had it been that easy, we wouldn't be on this show together.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Okay, Joshua says, Rollis, we are currently working on a new platform that addresses all the areas you're discussing. We would love an opportunity for Europeankis coming to do the beta test when the time is right. Well, listen, Joshua, I applaud you for being on this show. There's so many of these sales folks who will hit me up on stuff. I'm talking about CEOs, salespeople, whatever. Never had any interaction with me. Never interacted with any of my content, and they hit me up with some offer. And what I like about Joshua is engaging. This is the key. So kudos to you, Joshua, for what you're doing. Yeah, be happy to look at something like that in the future. Okay,
Me too.
Leon says tick. Yeah, okay, good. So you see, you got Priyanka too. Leon says TikTok has incentivized them by paying them, very similar to when people were becoming YouTube influencers. That's true. There is some truth to that. Now, I will say this: you can't just get on the program and start getting paid. Okay, you got to put in some. You got to get like most of those programs. You have 1,000. You have to have at least 1,000 followers or more.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you start making some money, it's not a lot of money until you really start to build it up. But there's some
Yeah.
guys who are really making some serious coin on these platforms like this. I'm amazed at how much there's kids that are making millions of dollars per year on YouTube right now.
I was gonna
Kids.
say, it's, you know what? I feel like the TikTokers and all that. I think the most loaded people from there are the youngest ones. It's the youngest ones. They're doing an amazing job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's true. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know from my standpoint, what we're doing right now on TikTok is we're pushing through ad content. So we're paying to place our stuff on the platform. Whereas those content creators, they're trying to post things that will attract people without paying anything. And so they can't be quite as targeted. I mean, they can be somewhat targeted. So
Right.
to his point, yeah, it's true. There's quite a few that are trying to go on TikTok, be the next big influencer, and make a bunch of money. But it's interesting that over half the people, though, on TikTok, there's there's no there's no chance they're probably ever going to be an influencer, but they still upload anyway. And that's what I love about the program is that it makes people feel comfortable to do it. For whatever reason, LinkedIn and some of the other platforms have not given people the comfort
Yeah.
level to want to do it. I guess, like for instance, on LinkedIn, people feel like it has to be perfect for them to put a video on LinkedIn. They can't just put just anything out there. I don't know. Have you felt that way? Have you heard that before?
Oh, yeah. people are really self-conscious. People are very, very self-conscious, and social media affects all of our lives, whether we like it or not, whether we admit to it or not. People are very self-conscious, and you're absolutely right. People like want things to be perfect, and they won't post it until it's absolutely perfect. And I've seen that even with friends and stuff personally. And I'm like, doesn't really matter. Like, just post it. If you feel good about it, just do it. Like, that's kind of, isn't that like, you kind of have to think about, all right, what's my purpose of doing this? Like, what's
Yeah,
the purpose? So as long as you feel like your video hit that purpose, then push it out. Don't be shy about it. It's not a big
love
deal,
it.
you know.
Awesome.
Nothing's gonna be perfect. So
Okay, I got a question just came in. We have Cindy Hinsa or Hinka. I don't know if I said that right. So please feel free and correct me, Cindy. But thank you for commenting. She says, "Why are the older generation of 50 or more not getting hired?" I'll let you tackle it, and then I'll try and see what I can do to take a stab at it.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess my question back to Cindy is, is it something that, you've personally been through, or you feel like that's happened recently? Because, I mean, I can tell you, like I said, personally, from my hiring points and my hiring stance, it's nothing against age. Obviously, there's no, a company should not be doing age discrimination. If they are doing age discrimination, that's a big issue. But I think the biggest thing is it's all about the experience and, how they interview, and depends on the role and stuff like that. So it's not like, I would assume that a company isn't like intentionally doing any type of age discrimination or anything like that, but it might just be based on how you interview, based on the role, based on the timing, so on and so forth. That's kind of how I would start that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that right now too, the way these companies are short on people, they're not
Yeah,
looking too hard about age. They're looking at can this person do the job more so now than ever.
yeah.
And then I think sometimes what may happen is the person who, and it doesn't have to necessarily do with age because I'm actually 50 years old, but in terms of the skill set matching up with the job that I'm applying for.
Mhm.
And then number two is what price point does the company think they can get me for? So sometimes it kind of goes to they might want someone a little bit junior because they're limited on budget. They're trying to hit a certain price point. That could be part of it. Another thing that may be part of it for some of the folks who are north of 50 would be their skill set. Does it match up with what's in the employer's mind? Okay, not in our mind, but in the employer's mind, does it match up with what that they're requiring? And I think sometimes clients or our hiring managers require things that shouldn't be required. That it doesn't you don't actually have to have that skill to do the job, but it is what it is. That's what they think. So if you're whether you're over 50 or under 50, do you match the qualifications and skill set of the job from the employer's perspective that they want? Number one, and number two, are you available at a price point that they feel like they can afford and that can keep you around for a while? Because I know one of the things that people they don't realize about recruiters or hiring managers is that we also try and identify flight risks. So if
Oh
we
yeah.
if we have someone who's tons of experience and they're applying for a job that may be a little bit below what we think that they should be applying for within our company, we're thinking, man, how long is that person going to stick around? Now, I don't personally think they would about it. I can tell you, hiring managers, that's the first thing that they think of. Even though I don't agree with it, I don't know how you feel about it, Priyanka. Maybe you have a different
I
perspective
hear it
on it.
all the time. I hear it all the time. Flight risk, flight risk, flight risk. So it's more. I think it's more on the hiring manager side. Recruiters. I mean, any good recruiter will try their best to really um, get to know what the candidate wants, and like try to deliver that message to the hiring manager, and then. In the end, it's the hiring manager's decision as to what they want to do. And you're right, Rollis. I'm glad that you brought that up. A lot of them do feel like, all right, well, that's a flight risk. Um, although that term is now being redefined back to predictions in the 2022, and kind of what I was talking about earlier. Listen, to all the people that are listening today, like, or that are going to watch, listen, if you get someone that you like, and you feel like they're only going to last for a year or two, hire them, my friends. Hire them.
Exactly.
Yeah, a year or two is longevity. It's longevity these days. Yeah. I have a lot of friends that are in the professional space. They get new jobs every year or every 2 years. So hopping a job every year is the in thing these days. So that is the new norm.
This is gets me, Priyanka. As I've worked with clients that literally have turnover ratios of like 50% a year, which means that most of their employees don't even stay a year anyway in certain positions, right? So
Exactly.
why would that be a huge concern? I mean, the way you turn that around is other ways. Not trying to predict based on the resume how long they're going to stay with you, because I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you got a high turnover ratio. So yeah, I'm with you on
Exactly.
that.
It's just funny. Like, same thing. I talked to a lot of hiring managers. They're like, well, they're going to leave in a year. And I'm like, okay, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just talked about them being with you for a year. That's longevity. So get them through a year, and then back to retention. Get them through a year, and then figure out ways to keep them forever.
Yes,
But the fact of the matter is, you're not going to find talent that's going to stay with you forever. No one does that anymore. And then number two, get them through a year, and then throughout that 1 year, figure out ways to kind of keep them and grow them and develop them. Because if they do, then they're going to stay with you for a very long time.
I agree. Okay, I'm looking at the comments one last time here. Joshua says, I think the one reason is that there are younger people in leadership. Oh, well, okay. Cindy says, is longevity a thing of the past? I don't know.
So
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. How do you define longevity? What is that? 10 years,
should I
20
go?
years? Go ahead.
Yeah, should
Please go for it.
Yeah, longevity, like we just talked about, like it's funny, Rollis, if you like my dad actually is still working. My dad works for the Maryland state government and has been with them for over 30 years. And when I see my dad, I'm like, awesome, I'm really happy that he's done that, but he doesn't that level of talent doesn't really exist anymore. Like people leave jobs nowadays within a year, especially with millennials and like all of like the new generations coming in and out. 1 year, baby, that's it. 1 year, you got yourself a year. They're gonna come in, and the millennials that are coming in, they're like, okay, 1 year, but like I expect a promotion in less than a year. And if you promote me, then I'm staying. If not, I'm out. Bye bye. So these talent, they have high expectations. It's not like they don't want to work hard. People always feel like millennials don't work hard. They do work hard, but they're just kind of vocal about what they want. And if they don't get it, then they're off to the next thing. They're gonna find another place that will give them what they want, or give them that quote unquote promotion or that growth or stuff that they're looking for. So millennials, they're a different generation. Dealing with them is very much, at a different level than, how that previous generation was. So again, they do work hard, but they want what they want, and they kind of vocalize that. And even if they don't vocalize it, you as an employer need to understand that that's their generation. That's what they want. So you have to figure out a way to like deal with the Gen X, the Gen Z, the millennials, all that stuff, because they're a different breed, my friends.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And the longevity piece, like, Rollis, like I can tell you longevity nowadays, I know it sounds negative, but longevity nowadays, it's great. Tenure is great. But the fact of the matter is most people don't really have that anymore. So it's almost like this rare breed, like, oh wow, you've been with the company for so long, like, okay, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? That's kind of how it's looked at these days.
It's interesting. I definitely see how the viewpoint towards longevity has changed a bunch. I do still hear hiring managers that complain if they see a a person change jobs every single year. They're like, well,
Yeah.
they change jobs
Yeah.
every year. They're a job hopper. They change their, so I do hear that, but at the same time, I don't hear as much, or don't see as much people who stay with companies for 20, 30 years. It's more like the
Yeah.
shorter term inside of 10 years is, I mean, if someone has 5 to 10 years in one place, that's considered, I think, longevity these days.
That is
I don't know.
longevity. That's longevity. Oh yeah. 5 to 10 years, that's longevity for sure.
Well, listen, it's been a great. I cannot believe how fast this hour has passed. And guys in the comments, Cindy, Joshua, Leon, you guys all had great input. Joanne, of course, appreciate all you guys being on today. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything here. And to Joshua's point, it could be about younger people in leadership. That's a possibility. It remains to be seen how that's going to affect things going forward. But anyway, thanks again, Priyanki. You're great as always. We love having you back here today. We look forward to having you back on the show in the future. I didn't even get any chance to do any of my fun questions.
I
So we'll have to
know,
save that.
Rollis, I was gonna call you out on that. You didn't ask me anything fun today.
Okay, do you want me to ask you one before you leave? You want me to do that?
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
look forward to that.
Okay, all right. All right. Do you remember, okay, what do you remember about your babysitters or a babysitter that you had when you were young?
Good question, Rollis. I should tell you, I basically grew up with parents that had just moved from India to the U.S. And kind of were struggling with finances. So they never ever had date nights, my friends. So I came up, yeah. So my parents basically moved from India, came to the U.S. They themselves were very much struggling on finances, so they didn't really have date nights. I didn't really have babysitters, but but I did have an uncle and aunt. It's funny, I did have an uncle and aunt that just lived 10 minutes away, so they were always around to kind of help and support if needed. Or I remember there was like a good friend of my parents that lived just a few minutes away. My mom used to work a second job, so I remember being dropped off at like her house. Um, but it's weird because even as a kid you know, like, okay, well, that's my aunt or that's my mom's friend, but you don't feel at home. I got dropped off, but I think the thing was, I told my mom, I was like, I'm not eating their food, so like pack me a bag lunch and I will eat whatever I want from my bag lunch. So my mom's sacrifice was like, was, all right, I'll pack you and your brother the lunch, and then, or the dinner, and you guys can like sit there and have what you want that I packed for you. So
Very nice. So it was all about family, family coming in and doing the babysitting.
yeah,
Nice. Any comments? Let us know what your experience is in the comments. What do you remember most from your childhood when being babysat, with having a babysitter? Whether it was your older brother or sister or your aunt or uncle, like with Priyanki, let us know. Well, listen, thanks everyone for watching today. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll say bye, everyone. Bye.
bye, Wallace. Thank you, Wallace. You were so awesome.
You too. Hold on one second before you leave. Joanne is going to hit the button there to cut us off when it's good. You were great today, Priyanki. That was fun.
Wallace, you were so awesome.
Thank you. You too. You too. Yeah, this
I
was
really like
fun.
that you're very grounded. You're so down to earth. I really appreciate that. I can tell.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just this has been fun. This has been a fun thing to
Are you
do.
just saying that?
No, it has. It really